Hi, I'm John Arana, and this is Karina San Martin.
Hey everybody, what's up?
And we are here back again at the Drop.
Yes.
Bringing truth and dropping truth and bringing life.
Yeah,
Hey,
we're bringing truth too.
We just want to encourage you and just lift you up.
Yes.
We're going to start talking about something that's going to be really cool.
Yeah.
And it's about intentional living.
Yes.
How you can live your life, your personal relationships, your marriage, your family, your spiritual life, and do it intentionally.
Yeah,
and
on purpose.
There's a big difference between living your life intentionally or just kind of going with the flow.
Oh man.
Going with the flow.
I can think of like so many examples of my own personal life of like those two extreme contrasts, with certain things. And I think for me, like the biggest thing that I experience and that I can notice and feel on a personal level is like the whole working out, exercising, thing, like if you just like leave it to like this non-intentional thing,
chance.
Leaving it to chance. Like, my gosh, it's so like either it just like doesn't happen at all because you're like, oh, well, this is so much more important, or oh, well, this came up, or oh, I don't feel like it, or oh, I had this emergency,
all
like
these different issues.
Yes, like all these things can take over, but then when you make a decision to be intentional with it, like saying, okay, no matter what, every day this is my schedule.
Yeah, exactly.
You just can experience and see such a difference, and you see the fruit of that intentionality.
You see the fruit, and I think that's what we're trying to get to here. So that we all kind of experience the benefit of it.
Yeah, there's a lot of power in being intentional. I think for your life and for people around you too.
Yeah.
The people that are involved in your life. So
I think sometimes sometimes we start thinking that life is just gonna happen for me. In other words, it'll happen. Whatever happen will happen.
Yeah.
But if you want a specific kind of life, if you want specific kind of direction, then you have to be intentional.
No, it's true.
Then you have to say, I'm gonna do this. This is a purpose that I've set up, and this is what I'm gonna do. And when I get up in the morning, these are the things I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
Not these are the things that I really want to do.
Yeah,
Sometimes you really want to do it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't want to do it, but you got to do it.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
No, it does. and I think what you're saying kind of is like something that popped into my head was that like if you're not doing things intentionally, like I think what happens a lot of times is like you deal with whatever's thrown in front of you.
Yeah.
Or like whatever's the most emergency thing or the most pressing thing or the most like, okay, it's 8 a.m. and if this doesn't happen, then like, we're going to have an issue. Like, so it's almost like you feel like you're just like putting out these fires.
You're basically driven by circumstances.
Yeah, and it's more of like a reactive lifestyle instead of a proactive thing.
Exactly.
And I think that man, like especially for me, when I experience that in my life, it creates a lot more stress.
Oh yeah.
In the day-to-day.
It's just kind of like you don't know where you're going and you don't know what's the next thing.
And it's like,
until it hits you.
Yeah, and then you're like, oh my gosh, and I think that it could steal the peace, the joy, just enjoying life even.
Yeah, and then you have a lot of regrets because then you go
you can, for sure.
Man, I wasted my day.
Yeah.
Or I spent 3 hours on that. What a joke. Yeah. Or it's like, I wanted to do this and I never got to do it, And it's like, if you want to live a life that matters, then you have to be intentional.
Yeah,
And the Apostle Paul said in 1 Corinthians chapter 10:31, he says, therefore, whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, do it all for the glory of God.
Yes.
In other words, you got to have a purpose, man.
Yeah.
And even in the simple things of life, whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you drink, I mean, these are common things.
Yeah.
These are not big things,
Yes.
But what he's saying is that's how important it is to have a purpose in everything you do.
Yeah, and I love that example that Paul gives here with the scripture, because kind of like what you were saying, he's saying like eating and drinking are like such small things that we do almost like we literally do like subconsciously.
Take it for granted.
Like you're like sometimes, at least for me, I'm like I could not even be looking at a clock. I have the Arana gene, but I'm like I'm hungry for lunch, and then I look at the clock and I'm like, it's anywhere between 11:30 and 12:30. Like lunchtime has hit my system, you know. And it's like, it's saying, I think what he's saying is he's like, literally everything you do, all the little things and then all the big things, do it for the glory of God. But I think he's also kind of, to me, he's saying like, start with those little things.
I'll tell you, I'm laughing because it makes me remember or think how many times and how often I eat without purpose.
Yeah. Oh,
you know, man, you know, I'll have that double patty, double cheese, you know, burger with fries.
Oh, my gosh.
And I'm going like, and then I eat it, you know, because it's good. It tastes good. And then I go like, man, I should have had a salad. I should have had a salad. That would have been a much better choice. And it's like, you know, even those things, you know, if you don't become intentional.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
If you just go with the taste of things.
Yeah.
You know, oh my gosh.
Or the flow of life or whatever. Yeah.
Sheesh.
And it reminds me of something my husband always tells me, like when I'm talking to him about, you know, like goals or just things I want to do.
Yeah.
You know, he always asks me, he's like, you have to, or he tells me, like, you have to think about what's your end result that you're looking for.
That's it. That's
you know,
where
like,
you start.
what are you trying to do? What are you trying to achieve? Where are you trying to go?
Yeah.
And you think of that, and then you work backwards.
That's right.
And I think that's a big help with us with living intentionally, because like if you don't stop and think about that, like whether it's your marriage or your kids or your work or your personal health goals, like you're kind of just like dealing with stuff as it comes instead of saying, you know, hold on, like I want to be here. Yeah. So let me work backwards and be intentional about how I can get there. Yeah. You know, and actually arrive to where I want to be.
I think that's a good point, because if you don't know where you're going, then it doesn't matter.
It's kind of
which
hard.
road you take, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that you know, one of the things that I get out of what the Apostle Paul is saying is that life is meant to be lived and served with a greater purpose.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, something bigger than just yourself.
100%.
You know, I think yourself is included in there, but it has to be bigger, you know, and I think that
definitely
it's a question I'm sure that a lot of people are asking themselves, but not a lot of people answer it.
No,
you know,
it's true.
Not a lot of people get to the nitty-gritty of trying to answer that question.
Yeah.
Why am I here? What am I doing?
Yeah.
What do I really want to do?
Right.
You know? And I think that that's one of the ways that you begin to get there.
Yeah.
Is you got to ask yourself questions, and we're gonna give you a series of questions later on to help you with that. But I think it's also part of what makes a driven person be driven.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Because they have that clarity that this is what I'm going after. This is why I exist. This is my purpose. Yeah. And now, man,
that's so good.
They got fire in their bones.
Yeah. No. I think that, and I'm sure we'll get to it more later. But I think, you know, those of you who are watching and listening, be sure to like follow up with the next coming episodes, because I think that these episodes are gonna like really build on each other.
They're gonna build on each other.
You know, with like
with
helping with this.
Stuff.
Yeah, because like I think even when I think about like me and myself, I think like that clarity sometimes is so hard to like, for the lack of a better word, to clarify. You know, it's hard to clarify the clarity in your life sometimes, because it's like, you know, especially for me, like with the whole God factor, because I'm like, well, I 100% want God to be involved in like what's next for me. Sure. You know, and I think that obviously, yes, but I think that God sometimes is like, well, Karina, I've put this, and this inside of you.
Absolutely.
And that's from me.
Absolutely.
And now it's kind of like up to you to decide like, well, what do you want to do with what I've given you?
Absolutely.
You know, and then that helps provide that clarity. But I think sometimes it is scary for us to be like, what's next? Or like, what do I do now? You know?
Yeah. I think also, you know, it's a process.
Yeah.
It's a process as you continue to pursue what you know that it's clear at this moment.
Yeah.
You know, and you pursue that, then I think when you get to that, then you're going to have the stirring or the uncomfortable feeling to say, okay, what needs to be next?
Yeah.
You know, and I think every step or every phase, things become more clearly.
That's true. Yeah,
and I think one of the things that happens is you'll never get to the next phase unless you clarify the first one. And
that's
I think,
really good.
you know, because a lot of people think, well, ideally, I want to know what my destiny is. And my ultimate dream.
What's my big moment, you know? Yeah, it's true.
And it normally doesn't evolve that way.
No,
you know, it evolves in stages. But I like what John Maxwell said. He says, we're not called just to live our lives, but to lead our lives.
I love that.
And I love that
really
because
good.
Sometimes
that's some good truth right there.
We're just living.
Yeah.
Going from one moment to another.
Oh my gosh.
Without some kind of basic plan.
Yeah. No, it's very true. And you know, I think that like when you stop and you ask yourself, to me, one of the big questions is like, you know, what do I want to be, or who do I want to be?
Yes.
You know, sometimes it's not even about like a profession or a job.
No.
It's just like, you know, as a person.
Sure.
You know, and I think that leading yourself as a person is one of the first steps to also getting that clarity and getting that peace of mind and getting that, like, you know, what's next? What direction do I want to go? And I think sometimes that's like a initial step that we don't do a lot of times.
Yeah. I think there's a big difference between living your life as it goes,
right, moment to moment,
and leading your life.
Definitely.
And so some of the things that we have here is to lead your life is to take ownership.
Oh, that's good.
Of every day.
Of your day, yes, that's
so
good.
And to have a plan for growth.
Yeah.
You know,
that's good.
To evolve in your purpose.
Yeah.
And I think that the Apostle Paul kind of caught some of that, saying, "Hey, you got to live with a purpose. You know, there's got to be something bigger that you're moving forward and stretching and growing and getting to." And I think that one of the things that we have to do is realize, again, this is kind of like a cliche, but it's true, is that if it's going to be, it's up to me.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Nobody's going to come and give it to me.
Totally true. Totally true. Yeah, and you know, I've kind of entered into this like different season of my life. Like last September, our last kid, Leo, he started school, you know, started kinder, and oh my gosh, it was such an emotional time for me, but that's a different story. But it's like opened this whole new season of life for me where I'm like, my gosh, like my kids, I've been home working with my kids for the last, Evie's 11, so almost 11 years. Yeah, you know, because I started after she was born, you know, a couple years after, so maybe 10 years. Yeah. But so I'm having to like restructure my day, refigure my moments, like reevaluate myself.
It's a different stage.
You know, and it's been kind of a struggle, and I've even had multiple conversations with my husband, and he's like, well, like, what do you want to do, like, with your time? Like, you know, do you want to just fill it with more work, or do you want to do house stuff? And I was like, no and no, you know? And so then it's like I've been in this time where it's
now
like,
you got to figure it out.
What do I want to do with this? You know, like, I have this time and space. And so I've determined two things, because I'm like, I don't know. I don't really have the answer to that. And I think it's okay for us to be in that place.
You don't know what the ultimate destiny is.
Yeah, I don't know what that is, you know. But I was like, you know, I know there's two things that I've always wanted to do more that I haven't had time to do. And that's, one of them is to write. And one of them is to, like, fine-tune some of my baking recipes. You know, like learn how to make a croissant and perfect it, you know, like from scratch. Like learn how to make scones from scratch. I would love that. And he was like, well, like, do you want to have a bakery? And I'm like, well, maybe, I don't know. And it's like, I still don't know the end thing, but I do know, like, kind of like what you were saying in this moment.
It's a process. It's a process.
Part of this process. So I'm like, well, I know I love this and I love this.
Yes.
So I'm gonna fill my extra time with those two things.
Take that extra step.
And this is how I'm doing it. You know, every Wednesday I'm gonna write, and every Friday I'm gonna bake. And those are like my two little things.
Beautiful.
That I'm like, in this time, this is what I'm gonna do.
Beautiful.
And it's like that first step to just creating some clear space in my head that might help with that. You know?
That's great.
And it's good to take little steps like that.
Absolutely.
I think, you know.
I think that's part of the process. You know.
Yeah.
And you know, the people that are just living as life happens to them.
Right.
You know, they give little thought about what they're going to do with their day, what they want to accomplish.
Right.
You know, it's almost like a zombie life.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh my gosh, like, yes.
You wake up in the morning
and you're just like struggling.
You're dragging through.
Man, I think I've been there. We've all been there. We've all been there. If you're there now, it's okay.
And you're
you
like,
can get through it.
Oh my gosh, I gotta go to work.
That's so real. And I think, like, what I really like about this, you know, content that we're talking about is the power that we have to change that state of how we're living our life, you know, and like you were saying, like, it's up to you, you know, like no one else is making you do it or not do it. And sometimes that's a hard pill to swallow, especially if you're like complaining and you're discontent with where you're at.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like you're the one that's allowing yourself to be there, you can change it.
You can change it, and that's a beautiful thing because, you know, if we do not accept responsibility for our lives,
that's good.
Then we want to blame. You know, we want to point the spotlight on other people, or like, hey, I don't have the opportunities, or I don't have enough money, or you know, nobody helped me, or nobody's come to do this for me. It's not going to be up to anybody. It's going to be up to each and every one of us. But the nice thing about that is that we have that power. And that freedom. We have that personal power to take action, to make choices, and nobody can stop us.
Yeah, that's true. And then I think on top of that, we have the power of God, the favor of God, the peace of God, the direction of God that comes alongside of our own personal like activation, I guess you could say, to be intentional.
Absolutely.
And then God like can really like take it to a whole new place, you know, that we could take it on our own.
So the other thing about intentional living is that you're living your life of purpose, on purpose.
Oh, that's good. You're living your life of purpose,
on purpose.
On purpose.
And so for that, you have to
and easier said than done.
But I think once you get the hang of it, again, everything evolves. But once you get the hang of it, you start thinking like, man, I feel so alive. I feel so energized because I'm getting up and in the morning and I know I'm doing this and I'm doing that, you know, and of course.
And you're experiencing that. You showed me, before we started recording, you showed me your schedule. You were like, it was so cute. He was like, let me show you my schedule.
I changed the whole way I live my day.
Yes, and it's so intentional and it's not like this, like, it's like, because I know you, because you're my dad. I know it's like stuff you were already doing.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
But it was probably a little more like loosely flowed like, but now it's like, you're like, okay, I'm doing this at this time. And then when you're done, you're like, yes, I did it. And then the next thing you're like, okay, I'm doing this at this time. And I think it creates like that space in your head to be like, there's time for that, and I'm going to get to it.
Exactly.
You know, it's not right now, but it's coming in an hour, and I can wait for that. And so it's not like causing a lot of this like whirling in your head all the time, you know?
Exactly. And it's funny because, you know, I'm structured, but one of the things that I read this article like a couple weeks ago that was sent to me by a friend that's a pastor. And this pastor gave certain suggestions on how to live your life so that you don't burn out.
That's
and
good.
So one of the things that he said that I really like, he said, take your morning and make it your me time. In other words, you pray, you read, you study, you write, you do the things that only you can do. And then take the afternoons and make it the others' time. So you do administrative, you plan with other people, and you return calls. And so then you're not constantly in this conflict. You're going like, I'm studying, but I need to make that call. You know, I'm writing, but oh my gosh, I got to attend to this thing. You know, and it automatically just kind of structures your day, and you say, okay, this is the time for this, and the time for that's going to come. And then you begin to align other people with your
the structure of your day, and your goals and like how you want to do things.
So it's living your life of purpose on purpose.
That's really good.
And it's interesting because before we decided to do this series, I was doing this. You know, from that article that this good friend of ours sent us. So you know, I think we're called to make a difference.
100%, 100%.
And the first place we have to make a difference is in ourselves.
And you know, being a mom, like I see this so in such a reality that like if I'm not structuring myself and I'm not being intentional with me, and whether it's scheduling my day or having that space, you know, like it is difficult for me to tend to my kids because it's like I'm dealing with this inner issue or inner struggle of whatever it might be that day. You know, and so when you are intentional with yourself and structuring your day and your life, like it creates such an open space to impact the people around you.
And you think about it, you're resolving that inner conflict. Of thinking like, I'm doing this, but I should be doing that, and I'm doing that, but I should be over here.
No, it's true.
And you just resolve that tension within, and then you go and you plow yourself into it. You throw yourself into it. And you're able to focus better, you know, and so on and so forth.
No,
so, you know, it requires getting out of our comfort zone. It requires a little bit of discipline. It requires consistency. You know, I think those two things are huge. But I think one of the things that we want to encourage the people that are listening or watching is that the best life you can live is a life on purpose.
100%.
And a life that has your intention. You're 100% in it, behind it, and working at it.
That's good.
And there's no such thing as perfection.
No,
you know?
It's not perfection.
But there is a overall strategy and an overall mindset that I gotta know why I'm here.
That's good.
And why I get up every morning. Other 100%. Than just I'm going to work,
and
make some money, which I also anyhow spend it.
I think, man, if we can get a hold of this, like the beauty of this intentionality in our lives, like it does give us so much more purpose to what we're doing.
This is
no matter how we do
this is practical in your relationships.
Oh yes.
In your job, in your personal development, in your
life,
spiritual life, everything. Exercise, so finances. Good. This is just really good stuff. So we want to encourage you because next episode we're going to talk about practical things. How to.
Yes.
How to actually live an intentional life. And I think that's where you're going to kind of get some meat to the bone.
It's going to be great.
So anyhow, thank you for being here today at The Drop. And we just want to encourage you and anything else we like them to do.
Yes, make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't already. And send this episode to a friend. You know, just share this truth, share this life-giving, you know, content with them to help them, encourage them. And man, this is great stuff. So make sure you do that. And make sure you're here next week, same time, same place.
How-tos.
Yeah, we'll see you
at The Drop.